Hi guys, Andrew from Primal Health Products here. I'm here with Alex Drew from Evolutio. Sounds pretty formal, doesn't it? But I know Alex because I've done some work with Evolutio, and I think he's a pretty interesting guy, and I think they have a lot to offer. I'll let him talk about who they are a little bit. And the topic for today, I think we were going to talk about it a little, was training in winter. Things to consider in a year-long cycle, so what you can focus on in winter, and also preparing for winter workouts. So I'll let you go from there, mate.
Thanks, Andrew. Cheers, mate. Look, Evolutio has been around for a few years, and we're working pretty strongly recently. We try and get into the gyms and look after, I guess, the professional development of some of the coaches in a lot of the Melbourne gyms, try and get their standards, up and thinking about injuries and how they can prevent them. Trying to educate the athletes, and then obviously we've got the clinics here in South Yarra and Kew as well, where we treat a lot of athletes, CrossFitters, Olympic lifters, quite a few powerlifters as well.
So a bit of work on me. It's all worked out good.
Yeah, so we're really excited about what's going forward, and so today I guess it's about thinking about the winter and how we're training through the winter, and starting to think about how maybe we change our training, our warm-ups, our mobility work from summer as it hits the colder months, and people getting into the gyms as well. Rather than just going through the same processes that we're doing,
And I personally feel that, like, not that old, but getting a little bit older, like, I know what I could do when I was 21, now I'm going to be 30. It takes me a few extra rounds to get my hips below my knees, to maybe get my hands in that extreme shoulder flexion area and stuff like that as well. So please educate me on how I can do that.
It's really interesting, I think when I started physio, I get a few of the older clients coming in saying, in the winters I struggle. And I couldn't understand why, because you sort of think, well, how would that change how you move? Why would you stiffen up and stuff? But it does. For naturally, we are a lot stiffer through the winter. So I think a couple of the big things I sort of tell a lot of the coaches we work with and some of the affiliates is to one, make sure you increase the mobility time. So you might have a look at your workout structure if you've got strength and what components, maybe try and decrease them slightly and increase the mobility time, but then put more onus on the individual athletes to be coming in slightly earlier for their workouts and doing their own stuff.
To get them to take a bit of responsibility.
Which should happen anyway, but over winter, everyone's going to have their individual issues. They might have a sort of bad ankle or hip, and they have to come in and do some specific stuff for that, because the coach can't necessarily put mobility stuff for every athlete, in terms of what issues they've all got. So they've got to take their own responsibility for that. Cool. And trying to lengthen the period of time. So we tend to find people's hips have issues, get a lot stiffer through the winter. We're sitting a lot and stuff, So mobilising those a fair bit. We probably need to do double the amount of time we're doing with that compared to through the summer.
Cool. We might come back to that. We'll probably shoot off a little later, and you can show us some stuff to do for the hips. So we've talked about, I guess, doing a little bit more, or giving a bit more time to mobility this time of the year. You mentioned the hips. What other sort of key areas should we look to touch up, I guess? I think ankles are one we probably forget about, which commonly become very, very stiff, and then we'll change, obviously, our movement patterns from running to lifting, and where we're going to load through different areas. As a coach that people's ankles can change, where they're loading up through snatch and clean and stuff like that. They're going to be forward or coming forward through onto their quads more if they haven't got dorsiflexion through the ankle and they can't load up through their hamstrings and glutes. So that's probably one. In terms of warming up or getting ready, I think we need to sort of do a global warm-up, make sure all the muscles are working rather than maybe specifically just the ones for the exercise. That's probably the change through winter I'd encourage. So maybe before, if you're just doing leg workout, you might just sort of warm up the lower half of the body, but I think it's really important to look at the upper half as well through the winter. And trying to make sure shoulders are really warmed up well, even if they're not necessarily being used heavily in the workout. So even if it's a heavy squat day, general warm up first. Let's start to elevate the body temperature and prep the whole body, just because we are going to be stiffer in winter.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, and taking that to the the next level and really sort of starting to assess it. What the athlete's going to be doing,
Alright,
rather
cool.
than just sort of giving them generic stuff.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.